My name is Dana Smithers, and my company is Empowered Women in Business. And the reason that I got involved with this wonderful charity, Her International, is because its mission is to empower women and girls through education. And my business, Empowered Women in Business, is all about educating, inspiring, and helping women lead and create successful lives. So to me, it was a perfect match. So while I'm not a super active volunteer with the group, but I do love to support them. And so, whatever organization or charity you want to support, just find one that resonates with you and get involved in whatever way does work for you. So, today I am so excited to have Kevin Edgecombe, the president of Her International, with us. Tamara, Tamara
McClellan.
McClellan. I know it's Tamara McDonald. Sorry, I almost got caught there. McClellan and Kate Phelps with us, their co-executive directors. So I thought just to give everyone some information about how the organization got started, I thought I'd start with Kevin because he was really part of the grassroots even before it became Her International. So Kevin, welcome, and please, how did a guy like you, who's in construction, who's won major awards for buildings in Kelowna, how'd you get involved with this?
That's a good question. Thank you for asking. 2005, when Michelle Benoit traveled to Nepal and found out there was some issues with bonded labor and servitude in Nepal, she came home to Canada and gathered a group of women together who might be able to raise some, some awareness around the issue of bonded labor. And over that beginning days, she ultimately encountered my wife, Linda Edgecombe, and she was one of the early members of the board. And Linda became very involved from a fundraising perspective because she's a motivational speaker, traveled a lot, and was able to sell the story via selling scarves for the charity, which helped pay for programs within the charity. My involvement in those early days was limited to driving Linda to the airport and helping her unload one of the two suitcases she had. One was full of scarves and the other was full of her own stuff.
And that's actually how I met Iwan, as it was called at the time. I met Linda at one of the WOW events. And so this is a long time ago. And I bought numerous scarves, I have to say, because I'm a scarf person. And that's how I got involved. I loved her story. I loved what was going on with the organization. And, I've watched you over the years grow and even go through some growing pains about what to do next, to have a board and that sort of thing. So you helped Linda do that. And then kind of what happened, Kevin?
In 2009, I surprised Linda with a flight to go to Nepal. Because I was really impressed with all the effort she had done over the 4 or 5 years prior to that in selling scarves and helping girls on the other side of the planet that she'd never met. And I thought, what a great surprise gift for her to buy her a ticket to Nepal where she could go and meet some of the people that she's helped. So I put a little package together, including some tourist maps of Nepal and bought her a flight and said, here's the date you're going. You're going to have a blast. And one thing led to another. She was quite touched. She loved the notion of the idea, but all of a sudden panic came over her, and she just wasn't one of these people that has traveled in third world countries very often. And she always says that she's big into thread count because she always travels to these nice hotels and speaks in these luxurious locations. And she was convinced that Nepal may not have a thread count.
Exactly, and I had been to Kathmandu a long time ago in the 70s, and I'm not sure a whole lot has changed. So I'm with her on that.
Yeah. So lo and behold, a week and a half later, I got a surprise ticket as well because she wanted me to travel with her, and so off we went in 2009 together, and we had an amazing trip. It was frankly a very brief trip to Dang, which is the area in which we do most of our programs. It was only about a day and a half that we were there the first trip, and but it was very, it guided us in the future for sure. That day and a half was very surreal in many ways, and from my perspective as a builder in Kelowna, I felt, maybe there's something we can do about this. I visited a classroom that at the time had somewhere around 65 kids in it. And this is a 6 by 6.5 meter classroom. And you can imagine how tight they were. It was very hot. It was very humid. They didn't have desks to write on. And when we were on the plane on the way home, Linda and I discussed it in great detail, and we came up with this notion of classrooms for a cause. It was just a notion at that time. We thought maybe we can somehow come back here and build classrooms one day. It took us about 2.5 years to make that actually happen, but in 2012 we had our first volunteer construction project, which was at Chain Per School in Down. That was my first foray into leading a group on a volunteer build. It was a little stressful, not knowing exactly what that would look like and how that would.
And Dang is about 12-hour bus ride from Kathmandu.
Yep.
So you take a group of volunteers, up you go.
Yeah. So we had an exceptionally great trip on that particular first inaugural volunteer build. We learned a lot, but we had a lot of fun, and most importantly, what I think we did is we created a number of people who are still connected in some way to the charity today. That trip, there was 3 or 4 people of the 11 of us that went that really still continue to be great volunteers for our charity. They come out to many of our events, and they actually have a couple of those people on that trip actually sponsored one of our very first nursing students that has graduated from our scholarship program. And Sunita has just recently finished her schooling, and the 3 of these volunteers paid her way on that trip, and so they continue to create huge benefit for our programs.
That's wonderful. So it was originally called IWIN.
Yeah.
And it changed its name to Her International in
2016.
16. Okay. All right, and then yeah.
Late 16?
I guess it
17?
was, we voted it in.
17.
Yeah, I think it was 7. Yeah.
17.
That's okay. Details, right? So that's when I became a little bit more involved and wasn't just buying scarves, but I went up to I'm in Vancouver, I went up to the GM in Kelowna. I just wanted to see what was going on. I met some great people. I met from creating possibilities in Nepal. What is his name? Sorry?
Dinesh.
Yeah, Dinesh. Whoa, I was like, he was just like so energetic and so excited about what was going on. It's like, okay, slow down. So what do you do? But that enthusiasm, right? It was wonderful. And so 2017, and so then you've been president since the beginning, right, Kevin?
No.
Michelle.
I think I'm in my 6th term.
Oh, okay. And then we just started with the board expanded and we hired
EDs. Yeah, and if I can speak to that for a moment, probably starting in and around 2012, there was several bus rides that occurred out to Down, that 12-hour bus ride, and there's many opportunities to have long conversations with Michelle Bonneau about the future of the charity. And I think she was dealing a little bit with her mortality, and she started to think a little bit about where she wants to see this charity go over time. And it was like her baby, and I fully understand that feeling. And over the last 4 or 5 years, she has started to step back, and she is no longer on the board. She's no longer an active participant in what we do, but she's very much still involved, and she's a mentor to all of us. What I found interesting about the conversations was that we made it very clear that at some point in the future, we're going to have to take this charity to the next level. And how can we physically do that with a volunteer board working on their spare time? I know from my perspective, it's been, I'm a very busy guy by nature. And I've always said that if you want something done, give it to a busy person. I believe in that mentality. However, I knew that I could never do what an ED might be able to do because I literally work 60 hours a week in my day job. So trying to do more than that for the charity is not sustainable. taking a month off each year to go on a trip to Nepal often isn't very sustainable either. And it is a big commitment to be able to do that because it puts a lot of pressure on your personal life. So, and your professional life. So from my perspective, it was the way forward was to find an executive director who could take us to the next level over time. And Michelle and I talked a lot about what that would look like. And the one thing that remained constant was we wanted to find someone who had the same principles and the same grassroots approach to what we feel in our hearts about this charity and why we do what we do. And we thought, well, maybe there's a semi-retired professional who happens to love Nepal and has the kind of compassion that we felt it would take to really carry the message like we might like to see it carried ourselves, but be able to do it in a more sustainable way. And so Anne Heyman Hill, who is the VP of the charity, and I drafted a sort of a job description concept, and we were about to apply for or post a position when we had conversation with Tamara, who said, I'll get back to you. Next thing you know, Tamara and Kate had conversations behind the scenes, and together they decided that they'd like to apply for this job in a part-time co-executive role.
So other than being the retired person, they met all the other criteria.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
The passion, the values,
yeah. And I'll be honest, because when I was reflecting on the 3 or 4 years of discussions I'd had with Michelle previously, and thinking about what this person might look like ultimately, I have to say I tried every way possible to blow holes in this concept. I tried in my head to really know, is this appropriate to hire from within? Is it the right thing for the charity? Do we need somebody who's got the Prime Minister on speed dial? Various aspects of ideas. Was this the right choice? And everything I looked at directed me to, yes, this is not only the right choice, it's by far the best choice we could possibly make for the charity. For two obvious reasons. When you talk more to these two ladies, you'll know that they share a passion and a commitment and their tech savviness and their ability to influence people is second to none. And of all the things our board has accomplished in the years that I've been involved, and Linda being involved, and frankly, since Michelle was involved, I don't think there's been a stronger decision than hiring the two ladies that sit before you today.
Oh, such a nice compliment, and I applaud that, and I absolutely think it was a great decision. And we've got two women who I'm going to be chatting with shortly. That
was a great segue, wasn't it, Jen?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. That's why he's president, right?
You're good at that.
All right. So, Tamara, let's just start with you then. So, I'd really like to know how you got involved and what your why was, and also, so you live in Kelowna as well.
I do, and when I moved here in 2012, and I volunteered my first time 6 years ago with the charity at a scarf sale. I was just selling scarves, and it's not ever just selling scarves, which I know, but I was learning about the story, and I had moved from Manitoba, where I had been very involved with a lot of charities. One, though, I had went to India and worked in a slum in India with adolescent girls and discovered that was my real niche in the world, and because I was one, and I so get how hard it can be at that time in somebody's life, especially when they are disadvantaged for multiple reasons, to really come home to themselves and to excel in the world. And so when I found IWIN 6 years ago and volunteered for the scarf sale, I knew I had found something really special, and I was actually involved. I met Kevin right away and was involved in rebranding IWIN because I had a marketing background. And so it was a pretty full circle moment, 5 years later to help with the rebrand to Her International. And
I think it's such a good rebrand because it's because of the scope of the organization, right? I can remember when I first got involved, I didn't know what IWIN was, and then it's an acronym, and people would ask me, and I'd always get it wrong, right? I go, it's education.
I think we
But,
had multiple names.
yeah.
Believe it or not, it was originally called IWINK,
That's right.
and
Oh.
it became IWIN, which is Intercultural Women's Education Network. And yeah, it was a mouthful.
Yeah, but
And
her
yet
international.
it did what it needed to do for sure. And then the change that happened, just it made sense with all the other shifts
Yeah.
that were
Yeah,
happening.
and the rebrand and the growth and everything. And plus it just has given it new energy. I know, I was a little bit involved with the logo and the colors and, how was this going to represent the story and all of that. So I think it's just fabulous the way it just keeps moving forward and growing.
Yeah, I feel like since the beginning, there's always been a thread that has kept me really involved. I joined the board. I was just a volunteer for about 2 years, and then I joined the board, and then I was on the board for about 4 years, and then this next change happened. And I think Katie and I both will speak to the fact that for the last, almost 2 years, year and a half that we've been employed now by the charity, that these things just kind of keep finding their way to open up and follow the right path with everything that's been happening. And so it's really exciting times for us.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And Kate,
Hi, yeah.
I know you're in the United States right now, but we've tried to have calls with you in China.
Right. And so I was thinking, listening to Tamara's story, it's so funny because my story overlaps with hers in so many ways. I'm also a Manitoba girl. I'm from Winnipeg and felt drawn to international life. And so I actually am very nomadic. Right now I live in China with my family, and I'm here in Arizona visiting my husband's parents. And talking about what brought us to the charity, I have a background in banking and in management and business. But in 2011, I moved to Kelowna. And and even before that, I had started working in international development. And after banking and business, I really felt my home and I really felt my calling in development. And so when I moved to Kelowna, I was looking for how I could fulfill that. What opportunities locally could I volunteer? And when I found Her International, at the time IWIN, which for anyone who doesn't know stands for the International Intercultural Women's Education Network. And I'd loved development work. I'd worked with the U.S. State Department doing a lot of political and economic work, but we also did a lot of work with women in business and empowerment. And that is where I felt like I was really drawn to. And so the mandate for Her International to empower women and girls through education was just really synergistic for me. And so I was a volunteer on the board for 6 years, starting in 2011. And when this opportunity for the ED came up, I was so excited because I had seen the possibility for the organization. I knew that with an executive director to devote a lot of time and all their time towards building what we've been working on and taking it to the next level, that we'd be able to accomplish even more. And the only thing that made me sad is that I would have to give up some of my responsibility as a board member to someone else. So when Tamara and I started talking about this idea of us not of sharing the position, it just was so right. And I really think it's the next generation of leadership. It's being able to, as a mother, it's often very difficult to balance my career with my family. And for many years, I had to choose not to work and to volunteer, and that was fine. But having this opportunity to be able to both fulfill my personal and professional life is something that's rare, but I think is going to be more and more visible as women or anyone who's choosing to spend more time at home can find that balance, that there's a different way to lead, and it's a lot more collaboration.
Exactly. And I think I would say that one of your sacred gifts is vision, along with compassion. But I want to talk about some of the things that Her International makes possible for people to get involved with. So I know, I see you've got the book behind you. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and tell us how that got into play, and also where people can buy that and what it's about?
For sure. So this book is was made by Michelle Bonneau, and she had so many stories. When I was in Nepal, I met with women and I had a chance to hear their stories. And there was one of them that I met, and her name was Mamata. And she told me her story of being a bonded laborer when she was a child and going from being a servant, a slave, straight into an arranged marriage from one man's house to another man's house, she said. And she told me this story it had me in tears, and it was just gut wrenching. And at the end of telling her story, she exhaled and she just said, I never thought anyone would ever hear my story. And I realized how important it is that all of us need to have our story heard, and that this was not an opportunity that these women were getting. And so Michelle, she went around and she gathered the stories of there's a lot of trial and difficulty, but there's so much triumph and resilience and excitement over what they have done. And it's not what they have done through us necessarily, but what they have done by coming together. And really what we have done is minimal. It's just been able to bring these women together, and they have done that themselves because of what they have in themselves. And then, so in a combination with the stories from Michelle Bonneau, and then Julie Gascon she's the amazing photographer who has got the pictures for this book. And the combination of the two is this stunning book beyond. Yeah. It's breathtaking. And so the book is available for sale on our website. We have a cottage industry. It's Unico, so unico.ca. We have the book for sale along with scarves and jewelry that's made in Nepal. The jewelry we're so excited about because what the women are doing is they are taking discarded glass, discarded bottles, and recycling them by grinding them up and melting them down in brick ovens with brick molds and making beautiful jewelry. I'm wearing some of the earrings right now.
It's okay, Kevin. We get this. We're all totally into that stuff. So Kate, I'd like to ask. So who?
I'm wearing some too.
Excellent. Very proud of you.
See glass.
Yeah. So Kate, who are break it down in terms of the group. So there's the students, and then there's the mothers. So break that down. How does that?
Well, so our projects, we have projects in North America but primarily in Nepal. So in Nepal, we work first of all with the girls. We provide them a scholarship. Girls that otherwise wouldn't get a chance to go to school. Everything that they need to succeed. So that's tuition, that's their uniforms, their books, their supplies. If they need tutoring, it's tutoring.
Approximately how many girls would that be then?
So right now we have 163.
Okay. And Kevin, that's who you're building the schools for when you go up?
Yes, the classrooms that we have been constructing happen to be the same schools that we have some of our kids enrolled in.
Right.
Our kids are spread amongst, I think, 6 or 7 different schools at the moment. But the particular one we just built for this past year was, I think there was 40 students at that particular
Excellent.
school.
All right. So Kate, that's the young girls are getting the education, and then the Unico. Tell us about that.
Well, but before the Unico even, we start with the girls, but then we also wanted to work with the mothers because we wanted to help provide sustainability and to build education for the whole community. So working with the girls, the mothers had come to us and said, we're so grateful that our daughters get a chance to learn and to read, but we would love to learn and read too. And so we have these mothers groups where the women come and meet on a monthly basis, and they provide, what was the right word? They give a certain amount of money each month that's decided by themselves, by the group themselves, that they commit into a pot. And then with that pot of money, they together gather and they start a micro savings fund, a micro credit fund that they use to do loans amongst themselves. And then when they gather each month, it's an opportunity for them to discuss different topics that are relevant to their area. And so our staff there will talk to them about why is it important for girls to go to school? How do you register to vote? any sort of relevant topic for that area, they have those monthly meetings. And so then we work with the mothers in that capacity, and we do literacy and employment and other things as well. And then, but building out from there, Kevin had talked about how Linda was selling scarves. A lot of the times when she was selling scarves, people would say, well, are these made in Nepal? And we thought, let's make, sometimes they're made in Nepal, but sometimes they come from other places. And so we said, let's make scarves in Nepal. Because one of the things that's really important is keeping the mothers at home. Well, in the district, not at home, in the village, because sometimes the mothers, in order to earn enough money to support their families, will have to go to other countries, even to the Middle East, to support their family. And that puts a lot of pressure on the girls in school because they're responsible for their school, but also for their family. And so if we're able to keep families together in their homes, then the girls don't have that pressure to support their families. So we started the Unico business by starting with making scarves, and we hired and trained 8 women to make the scarves, and that's what's for sale on unico.ca. And now we also have 4 women that make the jewelry.
Well, I look forward to the jewelry because I don't have any.
Oh,
I'm not there yet. Okay, thanks so much, Kate. That's brilliant. So, Tamara, what on kind of looking at wrapping up for the year, what are some of the successes that you can tell us that Her International has been involved with? I know there's many events that go on and fundraising and that sort of thing.
I think just this weekend was pretty monumental for us, I think, because I got to go to Calgary on Friday to go to a large donor and partners Christmas party to talk to their employees about the work that we do.
Fabulous.
And that was a big moment, I think, because it is spreading the message so far beyond Kelowna. In Canada, we've done a little bit of work in Eastern Canada because that's where Michelle Bonneau is from, and then a lot of work in Kelowna. And so to go to Calgary and to see, they all had Hero Girls t-shirts, which is our program for the adolescent girls.
Oh, well, tell us a bit about that.
So Hero Girls is a program that we had already started developing when we met our partner, Shercall, but that is really meant to help young girls in that kind of pivotal time where they may go off to, drop out of school to have babies or get married, or there might be a lot of pressure at home from their mothers having to go out and work and all
at a pretty young age too, right?
Falling to them. I mean, it could be between like 12 and 17.
Wow.
We realized they needed a little extra support. They just needed a little reminder of how I always call it enough they are, how worthy and beautiful they are at whatever pace that they're kind of developing at. And then also they had lots of ideas, and it was like time to start planting those seeds of entrepreneurship with them as well. So Hero Girls kind of came out of that, and then we met a partner who had the funds to back up the expansion of the program, and so it will pilot in January of 2019, and then we plan to grow the program from there to really affect a lot of adolescent girls everywhere, not just necessarily in Nepal, but we are starting there in January, and to see 100 employees from Calgary wearing these Hero Girls shirts and seeing the impact that they are making by taking phone calls. That was a part that clicked for me because I come from 10 years of marketing background, and my dream always was I would get these phone calls from my clients of like, oh, I have this social, can you donate to this? Or I have this small fundraiser, can you donate to this? And I thought, what's really going to make the biggest impact in the world is when big companies decide and narrow their funnel to exactly what they want to do, and they provide a bigger fund to that. That's when real change is going to start to happen. And so I got to sit with this company who is committed to a level beyond kind of what we have been able to work with yet. And so I just think that it was a big, huge moment for us.
That's fabulous.
That was a big success. Yeah.
And Kevin, I know you like there's a golf tournament and pie contest.
Yeah, yes, it's been
a lot of money is raised for that.
Yeah, we've been doing better and better each year. It started out as just a social that my wife and I would put on each year just for friends, and it was never a fundraiser until I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago when we started to make it a IWIN fundraiser and ultimately a Her International fundraiser. But it's called Nine Wine and Pie, and it always happens in about the third week of September at a great golf course in Kelowna. And it's very unique because it's not a competitive golf thing. It's purely a get out and socialize and do good things for somewhere in the world. You got to bring a pie that you baked. You got to bring a bottle of wine in a brown paper bag, and you play 9 holes of golf on a Friday afternoon. But it's been very successful, and I think each year over the last few years it's grown. And I can't remember exactly what we raised this year, but it was $27,000 or thereabouts.
That's fabulous. So that's one. And then I know earlier on in the year you had a big fundraiser as well.
Yeah, so Hope in Her Eyes probably was the one, and this year that will happen on March 8th. So International Women's Day is kind of one of the days of the year that we try to celebrate how women are thriving.
Okay.
And so it was a big fundraiser in Kelowna at the Laurel Packing House here, and it included some art. It included speeches about women and the women who are doing the work to help those women. And it was meant to break some barriers down between street women here in Canada and street women in Nepal, and how really at the heart of it, we're all connected. And so that raised about $17,000, and we partnered with a local Kelowna organization to do that.
Yeah, that's fabulous. So, Kate, I know you're very involved with programs, and I think Michelle Bono has got something she's been working on as well, right? The empowering and for the women in Nepal.
Definitely. So Michelle has always stayed involved, and she's really good. She always tells us, I'm not going to interfere, and she only says, when you ask for my help, I'm here. But Michelle has a lot of background in education, and so she'll help us volunteering her time to develop programs and curriculums as we need it. So in Nepal this past year, she'd worked with youth there doing a leadership and self-empowerment program. She helped us do the groundwork for Hero Girls. She's also helping us develop a course in Kelowna that we're really excited. We're hopeful to launch in 2019, working with the Caris group, Caris House, and yeah.
That's great. And is the Caris House, is it marginalized girls, women? What is that, Tamara?
Yeah, it's women that have been living with addiction or poverty and are getting clean and getting back off the street and getting reconnected with their families. And so they house 36 women there. And the program will actually help those who are trying to volunteer or mentor with those women. So again, coming back to our educational background, and what we want to really do and do well is education for women. And so anyone who wants to work with at-risk women, hopefully will have a chance to access this course.
That's great. That's wonderful.
There was a great story from our recent build trip where Charlene, who is one of the probably senior members at Caris House, who spent 5 or 6 years living there, who is now out of Caris House, but she remains involved in some of their programs. And I believe she's become a little bit of a poster child for the organization to some degree. She saved a lot of money for 2 years to fulfill a dream, and that was to go overseas and do some good work in a foreign land. And so she joined us on our most recent volunteer build, and she was an absolute dream to have on board. She was so much fun she was so engaged and so enthusiastic, and she just truly, I know that she'll tell the story for the rest of her life. Mm-hmm. She's actually going to invite many of us over to Caris House early in the new year, where she is going to do a sort of a slideshow and tell all her friends there about what her experience was like.
Oh, fabulous.
So I believe that is a perfect example of somebody who lived a difficult life for a number of years, who is going to tell her story and really make it evident for some of this Caris program that we're going to run, and drawing the similarities between women in Nepal who have struggles and women here who have struggles. I think she's going to be a poster child for us in that regard.
Oh, that's just absolutely fantastic. So we're just going to wrap up things here, but I'd love to know how can people get a hold of you? How can they donate? How do they volunteer? So, Mara, do you want to do that? I see you've got, give us a website URL.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming to the kind of end of 2018, we have two campaigns running right now. One is focused primarily on trying to get 100 more girls in school, so 100 more scholarships. And again, it comes with this holistic model with the community where their mothers also get immediate access to a life skills micro savings group. And so that's called Empower Her, and that one you can find at herinternational.org/200. So
Okay.
the hope is really to try to impact 200 lives, and that is ending December 31st.
And is that a donation, a monetary donation?
Monetary donations of any amount, and that one is has been happening peer to peer. So there's been lots of people that I've got to know over the last little while who have just jumped on and said, hey, I want to put a page up, I want to raise $300 or $500, and so that's been really neat for us. And then we also have our Christmas gifts. So we kind of do a Christmas gifts catalog. We look at what would be an under $100 donation that people can make, but they can also print a gift certificate off and put it under the tree. And so we have 4 gifts that people can do, and those you can find at herinternational.org/gifts.
Great, excellent. All
And in
right.
terms of volunteering, we keep that updated on our website as well. Our website is really where all of this information lives, the gifts, anything like that. But we always need volunteers to help out. And there's, whether you're located in Kelowna or in China, there's definitely opportunity for you to help out in person at our events or virtually. Just if we have a list of the things that we need, or if you just want to send us an email, we can talk about your skills and where you fit in.
That's great. And I think you do pop-up shops as well with the scarves sometimes. I've seen a lot of those at events, women's events.
Yeah, we've shipped scarves all over too. If people want to become an advocate, kind of have their own, almost like a Tupperware party or something at their house, we definitely have had a lot of those happen. And in Kelowna, Kevin just ran one with his business that raised $6,400
Awesome.
in the
Women
purchase
love their scarves.
scarves and jewelry. And there's a lot of men. I will say there was a lot of men who just gave their money and said, can you put a little gift basket together of, for their women in their life? So
Oh, we love that.
yeah.
That's excellent. Yeah. So, yeah, just in closing, I just want to say thank you all for the work that you do. For the sacred gifts that you have that you're sharing out there. And Kevin, I know I've posted this. I think you're so inspirational to people. Oh my goodness, gonna cry. Yeah, just watching the trip to Nepal and, the difference, because each one of us makes a difference. We all have gifts to give. It doesn't matter how you contribute. Tamara and Kate just happen to be on the board as paid employees, but there's so many things that you can do to help this organization of Her International. And, Kate and Tamara, your passion and your love for these women. I know we've had a few unfortunate things have happened, and Kate, I've seen you post on social media and sitting there, just so sad about something that's happened. And I'm just sitting here crying with you. And, so the thing is, yes, life is going to happen, but we can all make a difference, and there's ways that we can contribute. It doesn't matter what it is, but as you said, find a way. There's lots of ways on your website. You can volunteer. You've got a Facebook page, is Her International as well. So thanks again so much. I sincerely appreciate it, and I love the work that you're doing. And while I have a small role to play, every little role matters. So thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Awesome.
Dana.
Happy holidays, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy holidays.
Yeah.